brothers WISP. The brothers WISP, brothers WISP. The brothers WISP. The brothers.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy. Just wanting to give you guys quick shout outs to our sponsors, as well as just the fun stuff we had at the conference. First off, we're brought to you by Sonar, a scalable, intuitive, and comprehensive ISP billing and operations support system. Learn more at Sonar.Software. Tower Coverage is your RF propagation system to empower your network. Real-time data metrics enable your coverage area, reaching your customer base, and more. The industry's best RF propagation mapping system allows website integration for customer sign-up and pre-qualification. Use this data to scientifically plan network expansion and help your WISP succeed. Get free trial today at towercoverage.com. And we have the first updated PreSeam. PreSeam is a cloud-based quality of experience platform that helps regional fixed wireless and fiber operators manage subscribers and optimize network health across access technologies and vendors. A 4-time winner of WISPA's Service of the Year award, PreSeam provides data-powered tools and insightful KPIs that help reduce support and training costs, drive growth, and benefit every team at an ISP. Visit preseam.com for more details. They're great guys. I really appreciate them. Quick shout out to TJ Scott. Dude was at the show, caught me right after we recorded the podcast, and he's a fan. So it was great meeting you, buddy. Take care. God bless, and catch you guys on the flip.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy with the Brothers WISP. I'm here with Mike Hammett and Dennis Burgess at Midwest
Broadband Operators Conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it doesn't even say that.
Yeah, it doesn't say that. It's NBB Broadband. Yeah, that's the main sponsor, I guess. Midwest Broadband Operators Conference.
Yeah.
Something like that. First time I came here was 2 years ago. You've probably been to a lot of them. Well, you've probably been to all of them.
Not all of them, but 5 of them.
5 of them.
Yeah, they've done it for 7 years.
7 years now. And from just 2 years ago, and admittedly that was the first one since COVID, that was like, there was like 3 sponsors. I think it was like Calix, Arista, and you were like the only 3 people. And now they've got like a hallway, and the food area has sponsored at what, over 25? And do you have the paperwork?
See here.
Let's see. 3 by 5, so 15. No, 3 by 6, so 18.
Yeah.
Sponsors. That's pretty impressive. I think that's a lot of growth. Is that similar to what they were pre-COVID?
Yeah, I mean, it's about the same size. There's just not enough operators in the area to fill up the area. This hotel is definitely a little bit smaller than the previous one last year.
Mm-hmm.
The last one last year we had that big old huge space, and it was actually really nice. I actually like that hotel a little better than this one, but this one's definitely closer to the airport. So I know there's lots of vendors that like that. So
Yeah.
but you know, it is what it is. They're not. I don't think that they're growing as much as others are, but it's still a great conference.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, as you said, it's geographically constrained.
Mm-hmm.
You're not pulling operators from Washington State.
Right. You know, and you're basically seeing a few people from Illinois, a few people from Michigan. I've seen a couple of them from Ohio, and that's about it. Now, keep in mind, next month there's a Kentucky operators conference as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure that one being so close to this one, all the people from Kentucky, Tennessee, they're kind of staying down there versus coming up here. Because I haven't seen anybody from those states yet. But
Yeah, I recall 2 years ago there was some more guys from the south, and I haven't seen anybody really south of India.
Tassos.
Tassos, yeah, but Tassos.
he's Tassos,
Yeah. But I don't see RF Elements here, so he's just here for fun, I guess.
Yeah, he's doing that suitcasing thing.
Oh.
You know, the big sign that said no suitcasing. He wasn't here for that, so
Yeah, we all, if it's not publicly stated, it's not enforceable. You can't see it. You can't enforce it. So, any interesting vendors? I know, Mike, you have most of your paperwork filled out.
I'd say that my favorite vendor on here has to be FDIX.
Oh, well,
That's my favorite
I
vendor.
think you might be partial.
A little bit partial.
Yeah.
Just a hint.
Dennis, who's your favorite vendor?
Oh, I think it's FDIX. I'm gonna be yeah, there you go.
But really, they don't actually have a booth here. They just have like a little sign hanging. Oh wait, no, they're the big one. It's the co-op.
Yeah, the MUBC is the
Little
little.
sign, yeah. So, I'll try and get some pictures for y'all. But
It's a good show. It is what it is. It's
talk's
it's small. The hotel is fairly inexpensive, and for us, we literally drove here. So we got two nights, 3 rooms. I don't know. I think we're at like $1,000 for that. So it's not horrible.
yeah,
Make sure you book your room early.
yeah. Don't try to do it the weekend before.
Or be like Justin and to try to book it the day he comes here. In which he had to go to the other hotel. One of the other hotels.
Well, I mean, so I tried to book it over this past weekend. No availability here. The other hotels that were right by here, $450 a night per room.
Oh yeah.
So we're about a 13-minute drive for $70 a night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a suites conference downtown, and there's like 13,000 people down there. So St. Elmo's, we actually had to call one of our buddies, who's the general manager there, to even get a reservation last night. They had 800 people last night, and they're gonna have a full house tonight and tomorrow night. So. And it's pretty dang good for Indiana or Indianapolis in the middle of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
At a high-end steakhouse. So it is a lot bigger than you think though once you get in there and
Yeah,
so.
can't say. And his food was good, so definitely worth coming.
Alright.
Have you were just here for the legal talk?
The
FCC rules. I saw you were in there.
Oh yeah, I was in there.
Yeah.
I always listen to those. I know most of it, and I know a number of fiber operators that are getting out of the business because of the exact thing of, hey, if we go past a home and they're 3,000 feet off the main line, and we don't offer them broadband because they're outside of our normal 1,000 foot drop, all they have to do is claim discrimination, and next thing you know, I have a lawsuit against the operator. And they've literally, I know one business at currently that has sold because they don't want that liability at all anymore.
Wow.
So,
If you know any more, let me know.
Yeah.
I know of a fixed wireless operator that is interested in selling. So, he's been in business for quite a while. So
it's always very scary with a lot of these rule changes. And then was it last night or a couple nights ago? I saw that Matt Hops posted that OTAR technically does not apply to broadband communications anymore because we're now telecommunications, and OTAR specifically does not allow for things that are classified as telecommunications. So
That's
the way I always look at this is every job that you do, no matter what job it is, whether it be a fixed wireless, etc., has rules and regulations that somebody's going to have to follow or not. And even if you start up a snow cone stand, or as they say, a taco truck, okay, there's still going to be things that you don't know about, and you're going to, it's always better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right? So, at least that's what I've been told. Anyway.
the way you operate anyway.
Yeah.
Whether you're told it or not, that's
yeah.
But that's there's always that liability. You always have liability out there. Any business has liability. It's just a matter of how much do you know about it, and how much do you want to know about it, so that you can claim ignorance, and hopefully, someone feels pity on you, because technically, you not knowing the law is not a reason to be prosecuted because of it. So, I don't know. I mean, for the most part, the net neutrality stuff, I don't think is going to change that much right away. But over the next 2 or 3 years, it could.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the FCC just nixed the cutout of you do like broadband providers being able to do fast lanes without like even if you notify, you can't do fast lanes.
But see, I mean, what's the definition of a fast lane?
Correct.
Most people say, well, is my QoE device doing fast lanes, or is it doing quality of experience? Is it actually giving customers good quality of experience?
Yeah.
That's an argument that has not been brought up yet, or not to the FCC anyway. So until it does, it's no man's land. You run with it until you can't.
Or it's every man's land.
Right.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways, operators who this is our livelihood, we're going to freak out about this a lot because this is what we care about, and we technically we just do care more than the average person.
Yeah.
Like, I have not encountered anyone who's in the WISP small ISP industry who doesn't just pour a lot of their life into understanding how this works. And so, we're going to, and we have a tendency to overanalyze a little bit. So we're going to overanalyze, and the legal guys are going to be like, yeah, that's effort, no. Yeah. So,
well, I'm gonna go down this QoE rabbit hole, and me and another person here who does QoE stuff talked about this, and he's like, yeah, but let's go down that rabbit hole. First off, is QoE allowed? Is it a fast lane? Is it not? I don't know. They haven't defined what a fast lane is. There's nothing that says exactly what that is. So then the next question is from a business aspect, is QoE good?
I mean, in a business aspect, I don't know anybody who would make the argument that it's not.
I can make that argument.
That it's not good?
That it's not good. So let's say you have a 25 meg plan and you have a 100 meg plan. What is the incentive of a customer to upgrade to the 100 meg plan when the 25 meg plan with QoE solves all their problems?
The incentive will then be, large downloads and or higher quality video streaming, because 25 megs isn't going to do 4K. Even if you QoE the heck out of it, you are not going to get the same.
But again, the difference though is, other than large downloads that you want to download at gigabit speeds or something like that, if there's no perceivable issue with 25 meg to the customer, and the majority of the customers, there's not going to be a perceivable issue with 25 meg.
I would make the argument that QoE isn't that magical. Like, yeah, sure, there's plenty of guys who say, "Oh, it's pure magic," but like, I have 3 stepdaughters, and then I work from home, and wife will work from home pretty frequently, and like, if all the kids are home, like I'm seeing several hundred megs from them streaming, doing other stuff. They're FaceTiming several different kids and such like that. So I can see a significant amount. 25 meg is never going to be able to handle all those kids doing that stuff at a good quality picture. Now, QoE is going to make it so that the video can still play and you're going to get the audio and stuff through, but the pictures, there's only so many bits.
Right.
And so,
but I'm just saying,
think in that regard,
if you don't have QoE, what happens?
If you don't have QoE, then it's a very miserable experience. Even possibly on higher plans too.
Yeah, but the difference is though is that now you have an easy upsell versus, I have QoE on it, and most people don't see that perceived value in it.
Yeah, so maybe what you just
now, as from a business perspective, you just sell one plan. You sell a 100 meg plan, that's it, you're done, and you get QoE, and that solves all the problems.
Yeah, but I think you could probably still justify having high. You just can't do the cheaper plans which aren't nearly as cost effective anyways.
I'm not saying it's costly.
but-
I'm just saying whenever you have multiple plans, how do you have to have a way to justify that? In the history, whenever we were selling, when we were doing 3512K, we would say, hey, you can get to a 2 meg plan, and that would be able to support everything you're doing. But the difference is we didn't have QoE back then. So as soon as someone started download, their internet sucked. Simple as that. I mean, even browsing sucked. You click on CNN.com, you might as well just go get some coffee, come back, and it might be loaded. So the difference is that with QoE, it actually solves that issue, so it's not as prevalent. I understand the video aspect of that, but the everyday web surfing, that kind of goes not seen.
Yeah, it will be less seen. But so the other day I was working on, there's 500 customers behind a 1 gig, and there's a bunch of Ubiquity OLTs. And so, way oversubscribed. And we were looking at it, and how we noticed the problem was that my ping latency was 300 meg. I'm like, what the heck? That was not this 2 minutes ago when I was first logging into this. What's going on here? And things were running really. So I think what we'll see is that smaller plans and stuff like that, yeah, you can get QoE to go longer, but it still is going to become a pain point.
Oh, it'll still eventually become.
There's only so much magic that can be done. And that's what I told the company. It's yeah, we can put some QoE in this, but you need bandwidth right now.
And then the other thing I've noticed is we have a lot of customers switching from, I guess I shouldn't really say vendors here, from one QoE platform to another.
I don't.
And I don't know why that is. Just in the past month, we've had 4 customers pull their existing boxes and put in another big name brand box. Same basic thought, but I just don't know. I guess maybe somebody's making it a little cheaper.
Maybe. I guess to clarify this, I'm a decision maker for TPW. You're the other big decision maker. Do you care? We have sponsors in it, but if they decide to pull us off, I'd rather just have a more frank conversation, unless you feel like that would be.
Well, I don't know. That's up to you guys. That's just something I noticed very recently is that's occurring, and I could easily see it just being a pricing thing.
Yeah, I was just looking at Preseam versus LibreQoS for this customer, and it's we're a little bit tight on budget, and to get a box that's going to do what you need, it's going to be $2,500.
Yeah.
And to get a plus $1 per subscriber, whereas LibreQoS, they have a recommendation for a box you can buy off of Super Micro.
Right.
And then with their metrics and everything, it's 30 cents a customer. Or if you just want the shaping, it's free. So, I think Cambium, they've been making market and making pushes and taking some because they give people the ability to tune specific applications. And I suspect that that's going to be very, people are going to get really hesitant about that very quickly. Now that net neutrality is back.
Yeah, that's one of the saving graces of the QoE platforms over the DPI platforms is that you aren't.
You're not doing DPAC inspection,
right? Yeah. Well, and ultimately you're this. You bought it and implemented it, so it is your responsibility. But it's fairly agnostic as to what it does. It does what it does based on behaviors, as opposed to, hey, I found Netflix. Drop Netflix down so it only does 1080.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, these customers are moving from a QoE platform to a DPI platform.
Wow.
So it's an interesting. But see, again, the question is anybody who has Wireshark, huh?
Did they see net neutrality go through?
Well, but see, that's the question is, anybody that has access to your circuit, whether it be fiber or anything, can do DPI as long as it's not encrypted. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference? I guess the only question is do you disclose it?
One, that's the big problem with DPI. Even encrypted stuff, you can figure out, okay, which AS is it going to?
Right.
What other, you can figure out which IPs host Netflix and Amazon AWS and Amazon Video versus Amazon Music and such. Like you can do that legwork and figure that out. And there's plenty of companies out there that will give you a list of, hey, this is Amazon's IPs for these various services. So I like that, but what you were just saying is DPI is expensive.
Yeah.
And I think it's more to do with the control you exert rather than what you observe. Like, I don't think there's regulation based on you can't watch or see what happens.
No, you can log whatever you want.
Yeah.
But then
what do you do with that?
Yeah, but it's A, what you do with the logged information, and B, how you manipulate the traffic. Yeah. So it's hey, because it's not really DPI, but in a sense, watching net flows and okay, well, there's this much traffic going to Netflix. Like that's a normal network management process. It isn't normal in terms of net neutrality laws to go in and turn down Netflix to only 720 while you allow Hulu 4K.
Well, yeah, but Verizon and AT&T do that every day.
Are they exempt from the new laws?
Not that I know of, but I know they do it.
Yeah, they're probably really looking at how the rules are getting played out and how they're going to effectively.
And again, I sit there and I also note there's no definition of what is fast lane. Yeah. I would not consider someone turning a stream down to 720 giving a fast lane to somebody.
Well, yeah,
because you still get the video, you still get the audio, it's still real time-ish. It's just lower quality, and if you're playing it on a freaking phone that only does 720, what does it matter?
And then also, not that I would have this position, but there's a lot of technically incompetent people passing laws and regulations, and also in courtrooms. Does a fast lane include having a Netflix Open Connect box on your network while everybody else is off network?
No idea.
Is that a fast lane now? Because you did something special just for Netflix.
So I was actually going to bring this up, but we've actually had quite a few customers deploy those NetSkirt systems, and the ones that have finally got activated after 2 months of waiting for the box and finally getting it installed, man, they're not moving hardly any traffic. I mean, just
that's
not.
Now, Joe?
Now keep in mind, it's free. So I mean, other than your power, you can't really complain about it.
My suspicion is that it's just not being utilized. Like they
haven't pushed all the content to it.
Yeah, some group in Amazon was like, "We're going to do this. This is awesome," and not all the other groups in Amazon have gotten onto the train and are believers yet.
Well, I think the leading push was for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
So when Thursday Night Football's not happening,
I don't know, when does it happen? Is it happening now? I have no idea.
No, I would say
you are asking the wrong people.
Yeah, sports. Yeah.
I think September through January.
Yeah. Does this look like it knows football? No.
So if Thursday Night Football is their headline event for the platform,
and it's not working,
and it's not happening now, then you're on. Well, what's the Me Too?
Yeah.
And
they're supposed to get some specific Amazon content pushed to them. Paramount is supposed to start being eventually pushed to them, and they were in discussions with Disney, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say I have insider information. Not that I know of. This is just what I've heard from the grapevine. So,
sure.
But I mean, again, the difference is for the power the dang thing runs, which is not much in the grand scheme of things, it's free for the operator. So, if you have an eyeball network, basically consumers, why not put one in as long as you're doing BGP anyway? Which, by the way, everybody should be doing BGP. If you're not, shame on you.
But like, I think it also depends on what your situation looks like. If you don't have your own facility that is appropriate for a server and you put it into a co-location space, okay, well, now that 4 amps that the server draws, say it's 4 amps, I don't know,
It's not much.
if it's 4 amps, well, if you're only allowed to use 16 amps in your cabinet because the facility has a 2.4 kW max per cabinet,
Right.
well, you used a quarter of your allocated power for a device that you may only be getting a couple hundred megs on.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, so yeah, it doesn't, if you don't have those constraints, sure, but if you have the power constraint, well,
I mean, most WISPs, I would, based on my customer base, most WISPs, do they have a presence in a data center? And the answer is probably not.
probably not, yeah.
So the next question is are they paying for power? Yeah, they're probably paying for power, but do they have a budgetary constraint or a power constraint like a data center may? And I would highly doubt that.
All right, yeah. Well, yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree that, most of the time that won't be the constraint.
Yeah. So, but it is, it's always one of those considerations that you have to account for.
I did want to. Do we want to circle back to conference-related conversations, or do we want to keep talking about?
Yeah, we can spin it however you want.
As a whole.
Let's do. What were you thinking? Next topic for conference, I guess.
Well, so I haven't been to any of the sessions yet because I've been, as I am at all the conferences, I spend my time in the hallway talking to people.
That's the best part of the conference.
Yeah.
It is. So I don't know what's happening in the
difficulties,
conference.
Besides technical difficulties, the talks have been pretty good so far.
The technical difficulties has been the
I think
projector.
it's the HDMI cable.
Yeah, probably just a bad cable. Ryan Gruhl did a talk about health and kind of focusing on facing into difficulties and struggling to assist in growth. Because he was talking about having lost, I think, 260 pounds in the last year and a quarter.
Something like that.
Yeah, more than me. He no longer has me and a half riding around on his back.
Right.
And is doing like 90-mile bike rides routinely, which is really impressive. So he was talking about that.
Well, when you live in Flatlander country, you can do those things really easily.
Yeah.
Come to Missouri and try to do that.
Well, it'd just be much smaller bike ride. Same number of calories burnt. I only had to go 10 instead of 90.
Up, down.
Yeah. Then they had the lawyer with WISPA talking about
Lerman Sinner guy.
Yeah. He was pretty good. They had CISPAs, the federal government Center of Information Security Agency. She gave a talk. She was pretty good. And, it was just general, best practices. But I thought the number of like they have the Illinois administrator for their BEAD fund. And their various, Indianapolis.
I was like, I didn't see them.
Yeah, they had the Indianapolis administrators for their various broadband support programs here, and he was talking about their schedule for BEAD, where they're at with their other projects. It was actually really cool to see how much candor he had. He's like, yeah, we don't know about this either. We're kind of waiting back for NTIA. And he's really like, hey guys, we're arbiters here, but we want you guys we want accurate. We want to work with you to make things be good. So I thought that was really cool.
Open it up to the wireless operators instead of just fiber. And I'll be honest with you, I do know 3 states that have done that. They just said, we don't have any direction from the federal government on how we are supposed to divide it up, so we're not going to use the 5 gigahertz or unlicensed spectrum as unserved. we'll just treat that as served, and then we'll only give areas where where actual there is nothing. So I know there's 3 states that have done that. So
yeah, I want to say Colorado was talking about exactly what their rules were going to be.
yeah, I do not know if Colorado did it, but not Washington State, but Utah has done it, and New Mexico's is done
really?
it too. Yeah.
Well, so actually,
John.
John Osmond, he says he's been involved in a lot of the state BEAD funding work that's been happening in New Mexico.
And John actually said that he was working with one of the state administrators, and one of the state administrators comment about one of the applications for, like, I guess they must have like their own state grants or something, doing pre-BEAD, was, why did this WISP choose vendor A instead of vendor B? And vendor A costs way more. They laid out wait, you know what you're talking about? He may or may not have been correct, but
Right.
he was that close to being correct. And it's just like, wait, what? Someone from the government, A, knows who the vendor is, B, can compare and contrast the 2 platforms, and has an idea of where one's more appropriate?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I would leave which vendor is appropriate to whomever is applying for it, because they are the dictators of that. Now the difference is that if you have a person that's trying to deploy, I'm just going to use Tirana or Cambium versus somebody that's trying to deploy Ubiquity, Ubiquity should win every time because of the cost. Now the difference though is that they should also have a density factor in the proposal to sit there and say how much density can they get off those, or how much density would they need.
Yeah,
because that would then dictate if they can even use Ubiquity or something like that.
Yeah,
or
or I would say more like, Toronto's thing to me, maybe I'm wrong, Toronto's thing to me isn't even about density. It's about challenging RF environments. Like, you need the density to make the money work, that's why there's a grant. But you wouldn't use Tirana in an environment, in flatland Illinois, where there's not really much for trees. The whole point of Tirana is going through trees and going through interference. I wouldn't say Ubiquity, but there's something other. I know what you're saying.
And Cambium does a really good job of that as well with the GPS sync, as long as you have everything working. And Tirana is basically an LTE radio for the most part. It's just disguised as an access point. They even call it a base station. So, Tirana has its own little quirks, but they're not doing anything new or anything like that. So,
just making certain that recording's still going and everything. So and Toronto's here. And they have 6 gigahertz stuff out and stuff.
Cambium's going to have 6 gigahertz by the end of the week, is what they're saying.
Oh, good! Finally.
So their hardware, I don't remember which hardware. I think it's the 4600s.
Yeah.
The 4600s have always supported the 6 gigahertz. They just didn't get the AFC stuff done.
Yeah.
Programmingly, the programming for that has not been done correctly. So.
Do you know, does the 6 gigahertz CPE equipment need active GPS all the time?
I believe it needs either a GPS location or it has an integrated GPS antenna in it.
It needs to have an integrated?
Yeah, because it has to request, there's a whole policy, it's very similar to CBRS, where it has to use low power to transmit its location to the base station to get the CBRS or the 6 gigahertz frequency coordination license to say, hey, I'm here, I'm aiming this way, yada, 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 and then magically it comes online. You would think it would all be tuned to the base station, but no, it's not. So,
well, so I know that there was one operator at least that I encountered with the CBRS stuff, that they had somebody who was like licensed.
Yeah, CBRS.
Yeah,
like you have to be a CBRS licensed installer.
And they set up each location in like an optimal where they were guaranteed, and that's where it was set because you could remove the GPS puck.
Yeah, and just enter coordinates. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a method of doing that too as well. So
Yeah, so.
but I'm pretty sure the Cambium has it integrated.
Yeah, I think it's in, and do you know if Tirana has it integrated?
it's integrated.
So, if you can't cheat, I think that's one way that the manufacturers were like, hey, this is something that could get us into trouble. Let's try to not cheat. Seeing as operators seem to be okay with spending several $100s on a CPE now.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when everybody was definitely on and I hate to say, I've had some conversations with Cambium about the whole Toronto thing, and their aspect of where they were coming was they were already one of the most expensive pieces of equipment or tools in the toolbox. And why would they make another product line that would be 8 times more expensive, or however many times more expensive that it is? They didn't think that the industry could bear that price, and that product would basically fail because it didn't have enough operators. And then magically, Tirana gets on this bandwagon and does things that that's been done for the past 20 years. It's nothing new, and magically everybody wants to spend $1,000 on a CPE. I will tell you right now, I have a Tirana radio on my home. I do get 200 megabit down. It does work decently. The latency is kind of all over the place. It goes between 32 to about 45 without really moving any data on it. That's part of the LTE spec, that they use, but it is what it is. They also made some other network changes that I won't talk about because now I'm going out my St. Louis connection out to Kansas City, back in through St. Louis, and then to my data center, which is really
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
If only there was an internet exchange that everybody could connect to.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they're on it. They just don't connect. Yeah, they can't. Those are one of those people that can't spell BGP.
Yeah.
So it happens.
All right. So what else about the conference?
Yeah. What else?
And they got the racetrack tomorrow. You gonna go?
I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, we got racetrack stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, no, we're headed back first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So.
We got meetings. Well, you got meetings. I'm just gonna go back to the office and sleep. I really do work.
Yeah. You just
Story checks out.
Feet up,
Yeah.
projectors on. Gotcha.
Pretty much.
I don't know. There's really not much else that I know of, unless you guys have talked to somebody that I don't know of.
I've ended up talking to more salespeople this conference than basically any other conference.
We did have the running joke with Cogent whenever he got up there. Hey, you might have got one of our phone calls. And I'm like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
The first thing he asked me, he goes, "Is there anything I can help you with?" I'm like, "Yeah. How do I get off your list?"
Yeah.
So
we were talking to an ex-Cogent employee back last night. And the one thing I can say about them, as far as the company goes, is they probably have the most robust sales department in this industry.
Yeah. And honestly, I've never had issues with them technically. I mean, I call into their tech support. I'd actually get someone that could actually log into their equipment. So
yeah, other than their inability to update. Oh shoot! What's the like? You had to use you couldn't use Aaron's tool for it. It's the pay for tool.
Peering DB.
Peering DB.
IRR.
Yeah.
IRR.
But Aaron just released their IRR not long ago. It was a year ago. So before that, you had to either use Peering DB, or then they had their IRR that was all text, email, that had to be perfectly formatted, and that sucked.
Yeah, well, so at least 3 years ago, they had their online IRR database that you could do, because I never did the email stuff.
Gotcha.
I was like, that looks awful. I'm not getting involved. And they were already saying, hey, this is getting decommissioned. Stop.
Yeah. Now Hurricane and Cogent and Level 3 Connex. I'm trying to think of other major tier, but they're all moving to what is it?
RPKI.
Yeah, RPKI. They're all moving to RPKI. So, and it's a good thing, but
Yeah.
you know they are all moving to that.
Well, and Aaron's making it really simple. That
Yes,
certificate.
yes.
You don't even have to generate your own certificate. You can just be like, generate me a certificate and apply it.
And honestly, I mean that's the way it should be. I mean it should be easy.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that complicated.
We're networking guys. Generating a security certificate is scary,
Yeah.
Dennis. Our equipment might take 20 minutes for them to generate them.
I would not believe that, except I have a recent customer that I was talking with, and every fourth word was, "I bought this used piece of equipment from eBay somewhere," and I'm like, you probably could save a lot of money, seeing he's in California and electricity prices are sky high, by just putting a PoE phone switch in instead of a 1,000-watt server running a PBX that has no CPU usage whatsoever. But hey, what do I know? So
Yeah.
I mean that was a design consideration when we were designing our data centers, that all of our servers, we have 16 processing servers. We had to make sure we had to go through all the BIOS settings to make sure that the CPUs would actually idle, because otherwise we would be taking up 200 watts when the CPUs would be idle, or at 0% roughly, versus it actually idling the CPU and it dropping down to 40 watts. And the majority of the time, the servers are at 40 watts. And then whenever
Saves you a lot of money.
Oh yeah. I mean, we got like $800 off our bills once we figured out how to do all the power saving stuff. Because when we want CPU, we want they'll burst up to 420 watts. With the CPUs we have in them, and the difference between idling at 40 and idling at 200 is, and especially when you have 16 of them, it adds up real quick.
Yeah.
So
What about you? Anyone interesting that you've met, Mike?
I've met plenty of interesting people.
Yes. That you would like to comment on.
I'm here, so we can't.
I don't think that would prevent Mike from commenting on me and you, Dennis.
But interesting doesn't begin to describe it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, nothing in particular. Just all the hallway or fireside conversations have been the real value. Although, as I said, I haven't even been into a session, so I don't even know.
So,
I do know. Well, I wasn't there for the session, but I do know that Lifeline Data Centers was like one of our good partners, and they actually hosted a couple of them in their facility back a few years ago. One of their former co-owners gave a presentation, and he's moved on to doing like hyperscale data center design stuff, and like he has a non-compete with his sales, so that he can't do his job within the continental U.S. because that may survive the non-compete change because he was
high enough.
and and he is an expert in the field. Like, governments are paying him to come figure out how they can become, what do they have to do and change, and what data centers look like, and so on, all over the world. And so I didn't see the session, but he was talking to me about it, and all the stuff he does now.
It was interesting. It was an interesting session. So
What would be like the big point that you took away, Dennis?
I don't think he had a point. It was mostly just talking about the differences, and in his particular cases, everything's going to water cooling because of AI. AI is all about the GPU, and now you have, originally racks were 2.5 and 3 kilowatt, and now he goes, now they have racks that are between 30 and 60 kilowatt, and he goes, coming up soon, they're going to have racks that are 120 kilowatt.
And that's so much.
And that's just a single rack. And he goes, now whenever he was in the original data center space, he was in he worked for IBM. We're talking big iron, mainframes. And he's like, everything was water cooled back then. And he goes, now everything is flipping back on itself. Everything's going to water cooling. There's going to be water in the data center as a normal thing.
Wow.
I've even heard of some facilities advertising anyway, 300 kilowatts per rack.
Yeah.
So at 120 volts, that's 2,500 amps.
Mm-hmm.
My house is excessive on electricity for most houses, and I have 400 amps.
Yeah. I mean, what's it? Let's see. The standard would be like 200 amp.
200 amp panel,
Yeah.
but that's at 222
Yeah.
But it's
or 240. Sorry.
but going to that, if it was air, you just couldn't move.
Yeah.
The heat.
Yeah. There's thermodynamics. A lot of thermodynamics kicks in. It plays everyone.
The air is very inefficient in comparison to the what they call direct eye, which is water cooling. And keep in mind, most of those data centers. I mean, my uncle worked for IBM for 35 years, and most of the data centers that they ran, he goes, they'd run. It's not glycol, but it's like an oil-based product that is not electrically conductive.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, so we would run that instead of actual water. We wouldn't actually.
So
they wouldn't
when
actually.
When it eventually sprayed out
Right.
over everything.
But then also keep in mind, he said most of our server chassis and the cabinets, he goes, everything was designed with water cooling in mind. So out the back of the chassis, you have 2 quick disconnects that are designed to not leak anything, etc. And you just connect it in, and everything's all happy. And it all depends. If you're designing for that, the thermal efficiency of water or coolant is much better than just air.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to mention, he goes, also think about this. You don't have no fans.
It's going to be a lot quieter.
He goes, think about that. Walking into a data center and not hearing anything besides maybe a pump or two in the basement.
No, I mean, they'll probably have some, but that'd be such magical.
Yeah.
Such a magical experience. And I personally would prefer to be water cooling that whole thing, because it's probably a heck of a lot easier to move that much water.
That's
than
what they're
that much
saying
air.
is like, you get into the AI, all the NVIDIA cards and such. They are making the cards to where everything is water cooled, and now the chassis are starting to come where you might have 6 or 8 of those GPUs in them, and then they take all the water, all the CPU and all the RAM, and they have water cooling rigs right on top of them. That's designed, again, just to be quick disconnected. It's designed to be connected to water in a data center.
That's going to be
or liquid.
That's going to be a really cool data center to walk into.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bajillion blinking lights and enough power every square inch to kill you instantly.
Yeah. I mean, our data center is it's all 240.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in it is 240. All Microtech can take 240.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually more thermally efficient, so it produces less heat, and it's actually more efficient at converting it to DC than it is 110.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's
So-
more efficient to convert 240.
240, yeah.
Huh.
In most switching power supplies, I bet you on this laptop right here, I bet you look at that, it probably says it'll take 240 in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. that's
So, you might as if you have 240, and in our cases, the reason why we had 240 is we had the M1000E blade chassis, which took 6 30 amp power 220 or 240 power inputs.
Yeah.
And so we ended up with a pair of 5,000 watt UPSs and all that. It's all 240. And I was like, why don't we just run everything at 240? So that you have to get special power plugs, because it's not the standard power plug. But other than that, it's we've actually lowered our power bills and less heat.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it'd be less heat, but the power supply is less heat because the power supply is more efficient at 240. So
Interesting. I didn't realize 240 was more efficient. What other? Let's see here. I was listening now. I pulled up the webpage.
think about this. It's less amps. It's half the amps of 110. So you're not generating heat by moving those electrons. You're moving it. You're still moving the same amount of power, but the difference is at the higher voltage, it doesn't generate as much heat because amps is what generates the heat.
Yeah.
So, TISA, Cybersecurity and Advisor, and State Coordinator.
Okay.
with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Yeah, so that's just cool that somebody she showed up and talked to a bunch of schmucks like us.
There was another lady that she was, I don't know what she was, but I think she was kind of like a bank. She was talking about how do you get financing for your business, and believe it or not, doing leases doesn't help. What does help is you taking out loans, and then you look at a loan. Let's just say you get a cash loan for $100,000. Well, you take that $100,000. Yes, it's at instead of 7%, since it's cash, it's like 9%. Well, then you put it into an interest-bearing account, and all you're doing is making your payments every month. That's all you're doing. You're not using the money. Now you're being charged for that, but you make 4% roughly back on the interest-bearing account. So now you're at what, 6%, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah, roughly 6%. But the difference is now every month you're building credit. And that goes onto your Duns and Bradstreet, all of those types of things. And now when you go to a bank, they actually are getting a credit report that actually shows, hey, you've had loans, you're paying them back, it's all good, and everybody is really happy with that. So what I would normally suggest is if you do like a 5-year loan like that, what you do is you figure out how much it's going to cost you to pay it back in 2.5 years. Or 2 years, and then you make payments. I mean, you got the cash; you can pay it all back right away, but that doesn't build credit. Basically, you building credit. Yes, you're going to pay 5% for that, but now you're paying it back in 2 years. That shows you, hopefully show you in a better light than anything.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, because I know for my small business, it's a little bit difficult to. I mean, I have to put my own personal. Stuff on
well,
if you don't want to,
right?
If you really want to keep an LLC, limited liability,
right.
So that's actually a really good point. As a small business owner, that's actually
because I mean, if you're getting a lease, you're basing the lease off your credit, which is fine, but the difference is the lease doesn't go towards building the business credit.
Yeah. So
you typically just want to get a loan, and you could get a loan secured by the hardware if they'll do that, but more often than not,
a lot of banks don't want to do that because they don't know.
Yeah,
they don't know the value of fiber.
Right, and look at it this way. We have several $1 million worth of inventory, and we could not. It took us a long time to get there because guess what? We did not have a bank to use. Okay, because yes, they would give us a line of credit. Which is actually good because that'll actually build credit, but you have to use it. So we would have a line, but the difference is, that's actually something else you pointed out. You should have, if you need a line of credit, or even if you don't, you should have one. Because, if you have 100,000 or 200,000, you get a line of credit, it doesn't cost you anything if you don't use it. But when you need it, it's there. And it's an immediate, it's just move money. Versus, hey, am I going to be able to make payroll this week? Well, let me go get a loan, or let me go get something. Well, that takes time, to extend those things. And while that's occurring, now you're defaulting, or you're becoming late on your mortgage payment or something like that, and that definitely does negatively affect your credit rating.
Yeah.
So if you have a line of credit, or if you can get a line of credit, it's always better to get that, especially if it doesn't cost you anything if you're not using it. Because it's always better to get it when times are good than when times are crappy, because then you probably won't get one.
Right. Yeah. They only loan money to people that don't need it.
Yeah. And then if you look at like all the rich people like Elon Musk and all those guys. They don't use their money to buy things. Like Elon, he has like 6 houses. Well, he has mortgages just like every other person. Now, does he care about the mortgage? No. It's nickels and dimes to him. But the difference is, why would you pay your money that's earning interest for you to buy something that you might sell in 4 years or 5 years?
Yeah,
he goes, you just get a loan.
Yeah,
just like anything
probably
else.
More effectively throw $400,000 into SpaceX and get two more satellites up in the sky.
Right, yeah.
And make more money on that part.
So I speaking of which, I heard that there was some outages from the recent solar storms, of which I actually had. Was it
The terminal? Did your terminal go down?
my Tirana never went down, and neither did my SpaceX.
Neither did SpaceX.
But we did hit we did get the Northern Lights in St. Louis.
Yeah, you had
first time
pictures,
and I was like, "Holy cow!" I tried to wake up my son, and he's like, "Nah, bed."
Oh, foolish boy!
Yeah.
Boy. So that was unfortunate. I was busy on a phone call.
On the first night, it was cloudy. The second night, it was going to be this time, but then all of a sudden it was this time, then it was this time.
Yeah.
And now it's 3 a.m. I'm like, I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. because because if it was guaranteed, maybe, but they kept changing
moving it,
both the time and how intense it was going to be. I'm like, I'm not going to wake up at 3 a.m. and not knowing it's going to be.
So something else I noticed with it is, at least in St. Louis, where I'm from, was if you take a normal picture of the Northern Lights that you see from propaganda videos or such, whatever the case may be,
Just the wording.
yeah, from those things, it was not like that in St. Louis. It was more of a cloud of color here and then a cloud of color here, so it wasn't a defined like
colors moving across.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. And something else is, from my naked eye, the color was very muted. My phone picked it up much better, or may have did post processing to bring the color out. But the photos were really
awesome.
pretty, but to the naked eye they weren't as brilliant, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's post processing on this was on a Pixel 8. I don't know if it was that and I did notice my neighbors who took some other pictures. They had iPhones. Their colors were really vibrant. I my assumption is again post processing something, but that was just one of those little odd observations.
Were you using night mode?
Huh.
Was it like making you hold still?
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. So then, longer exposure too.
Yeah.
Like I've taken some night mode pictures where it's pretty darn dark. I can't see much, and I do that long exposure, and it'll do like 10-15 seconds, and holy cow.
So Roger Coudet, I don't know if anybody knows him. You guys know Radio Mobile, right?
Yeah.
So he actually works for me. Okay, and that's how tower coverage got started. He actually has the whole freaking dome in his backyard.
Oh.
And he has like the $8,000 astrophotography camera, and he is definitely serious on it. And like whenever they had the eclipse, which St. Louis, we were just south of St. Louis. We were right there. And he actually was also in the path up in Canada, and he actually took some beautiful pictures. But something else he does instead of that long exposure is he does what they call photo stacking. So he takes photos every 4 seconds, and it's just regular exposure photos, and then he stacks them on top of each other, and that makes the luminescence of the picture that much more brighter while maintaining the black color of...
so you don't get so much noise.
Right.
That is an issue.
So, but that was
you don't have to deal with like movement quite as much.
No.
Interesting.
Off topic, but that's just
a little bit. Yeah. All right. Well, what else?
Well, we got time. We got time. I mean, the alcohol's not till 5.
Yeah. No, it's not. But I wasn't gonna keep everyone tied up. So, is there any of the? So you're going to Kentucky.
Yep.
I think I was going to talk to you, see about trying to head down there, because that looked like that was going to be fun. And who's John Gill?
John Gill. And
John
see, normally John's here at this show, but again, with this whole Kentucky thing, I really think there's a lot of people that are staying away from this show and going to that one. But but the show keeps growing. So.
Yes. And all right, we're just gonna. I only get 30 minutes of recording time. The camera
make
itself.
bigger SD cards.
No,
it's an EU regulation.
Yeah. So it's not a video camera if it can't record more than 30 minutes.
It's
Get a
an
video
extra,
camera.
it's an extra tax
Ah.
in the EU anyway. But so then they make single SKUs.
Let's discuss Microtech's crappy stickers
Oh,
on the passwords.
Yes. Oh my gosh. When they first came out with that, like a couple of years ago, I was.
Yeah, and
I was
the
okay
stickers.
with it, but they sucked.
Yeah. So just so you know, as a distributor, we do have access to every password, but we have to have the serial or MAC address of that unit. So between the serial and the MAC address of the unit, we should be able to discover because we've had customers call us up and say, hey, I can't read the password. And honestly, it's really small to begin with. And there's some font issues because O's and zeros are virtually identical.
Yeah, and I've seen both O's and zeros used in passwords. It's like,
Yep.
come on, Microtech.
Yep.
Like,
But as long as we have the serial or the MAC address, we can look up the factory default password.
and there's dashes in there that aren't necessarily in the password itself,
Yeah.
which really frustrates me. So,
That does sound frustrating.
do you have an association? Like, I sent Tommy these 5 MAC addresses back in December of 2018.
If you give me the MAC address, I should be able to look up the default password with it.
Oh, okay.
It's all Microtech has all that recorded based on serial MAC and what the default random password that they generated was.
Okay.
We have a lookup tool as a distributor that we can look that up and get what Microtech says the password should be.
Okay.
So there you go. Keep in mind you still can do a net install and erase the password if that's a requirement, but that's
Or if you change your password, you're up a creek.
well, it depends. I mean, you can still do a net install even if
Yeah.
you change your password, but you
Yeah.
still have to have physical access to the unit.
Correct, yes.
So
Yeah.
to do that. So not like it's I don't forget my passwords.
I just put them in a KeyPass database and then save it to OneDrive, and then I'm done. And it's synced across all my devices.
There you go. There you
And I don't have to pay a monthly fee to horrible companies that are owned by other horrible companies.
No longer.
Oh yeah, they get spun off. I'm making fun of LastPass.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get frustrated with them.
Honestly, the
Wait, you get frustrated?
Yeah, every once in a while.
never. The biggest thing that we do most, we actually have, I cannot think of the name of the program. We actually have a program that stores all passwords for all customers and generates passwords for customers on the fly. And basically, you have to request access to this customer. Then another technician has to approve it, and then we get the password. Then we can copy and paste it in and stuff like that. But honestly, most of our passwords are like 25 characters, so they suck to begin with. And I absolutely hate typing them in. Copy paste.
Yeah, it's that's why I don't understand why you're always using the console in Proxmox. I'm like, putty in, copy paste.
So sorry, catching up with work.
Actually, we've been moving instead of Proxmox, we've been moving more to Hyper-V now. Mostly because of one major reason. One is most of our servers are Windows. Besides the fact, we do have a number of Linux boxes, but they actually, with the Hyper-V plugin, they actually support it as well. But they have dynamic RAM allocations, which is
So you don't have to like reboot the virtual machine to
The-
change the VM?
not only that, it'll change it while it's running. So, like we have a VDI installation for our desktops. Most of the time, I allocate 16 gig of RAM. Even with our applications up, it might be using 5 gig of RAM. And the difference is there's
You
additional.
don't have enough Chrome tabs open.
Obviously,
Yeah,
yes.
But I'm just using that as an example. Is as you start using more RAM, it'll allocate more all the way up to the maximum. Okay, and you can set minimum, maximum, but most of the time our servers are running between 4 and 5 gig of RAM because they don't need much.
Yeah, I was pretty certain that Proxmox did the same thing because I know we over provisioned the heck out of the RAM.
Well, that's the whole point of though is that you can over provision RAM and it'll only use and allocate what is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So that just seems to be a much more efficient use of RAM. And even though RAM's fairly inexpensive now, it definitely seems more. The other thing I don't like about Proxmox is their backup solution.
Not a big fan of the backups. What's your frustration with it? Because we have a couple little ones that we've run into.
For the most part, you just have their backup solution. What is that?
Proxmox backup.
Backup, yeah. And simple as that. I don't like that utility to do my backups. So basically what happens is we actually have our own utility that does Hyper-V, ESXi, Windows servers, Linux servers, all that platform. And we spend, a considerable amount of money, not a whole lot of money per year for that platform. And we also resell that platform to other ISPs and such for backup and such. And it stores it all in the cloud. It's all really good. But the problem is, right now with Proxmox, nobody else supports it to do backups on it. And I'm pretty sure that's because the Proxmox backup service is their solution to that.
Yeah. And
Today.
No, you were just talking about you were just talking about somebody else was adding it in. They announced it.
Veeam has announced it today.
Veeam will do Proxmox backups.
Okay. So we don't use Veeam either. So
yeah.
again, we needed file system backup.
So it sounds like a
NFS
problem with your backup solution, not with Proxmox.
What was that?
Sounds like a problem with your backup solution, not Proxmox.
Let me phrase this. I want one backup solution. I don't want multiple.
Yeah, but hey, it sounds like a problem with your backup solution, not with Proxmox.
No, because Proxmox can't back up my NAS.
But it sounds like a problem with your backup solution. It doesn't support Proxmox, not Proxmox doesn't support your backup solution.
Well, the issue is that
It's the wrong way.
The answer is our current backup solution does not support Proxmox. That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that Proxmox doesn't support many backup solutions.
Open API. They just have to make it.
Yeah, no,
It's open source.
They just have to
At
make
any
it.
rate, I haven't.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
So our frustration. So we've been running into little issues with we originally ran into this when Proxmox was going to back up MikroTik devices. It would cause the MikroTik device to reboot because there's a short freeze thaw
Right.
for it to get the state of RAM and everything where everything was at.
Yeah.
And that freeze moment, apparently, MikroTik was not, even though it had the guest agent running, it was still trying to do enough reads and writes to whatever to cause it to crash, and then it went kaput. So my guess, it wasn't consistent. So my guess was it was when MikroTik was trying to write to the log file or something. I don't know, but we already have Unimus, and that's more of a backup than really I feel like. Yeah, that's a great system. So,
especially in a MikroTik CHR, I mean, you can just spin that up in like 4 seconds. So, we're doing full backups of our VMs. We have agents running on our VMs to back up files within our VMs. We have we actually run a lot of TrueNAS boxes for file system backup. We also have both Red Hat and FreeBSD. Those are running. Red Hat runs a number of utilities that we use, and then the FreeBSD is our load balancers, which are all high availability and stuff like that. Every time I look at Proxmox, the big hurdle is how are we going to get our backups of the Proxmox devices in a orderly fashion that is easy for us to also restore. Because we also do every other week we actually have a VM that does a restore, and we can power it back on and actually check its operation, etc. So to make sure that everything's working.
Wait, so you verify your backups occasionally?
Yeah, that's that.
I've known of many places that they didn't for years.
Oh yeah.
Years and years across hundreds of VMs. It was going, files were created, something blew up, they went to restore one, and it didn't work.
Yeah, we actually do SQL. We have a pair of SQL Enterprise boxes. Those are 80 cores with a terabyte of RAM each, and those have to be back. The databases have to be backed up and restored. We actually restore our main databases on a monthly basis. So we try to be good stewards of data that we get.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Let's see the other, and then we have run into little issues with the virtual machines themselves locking up and crashing.
For the most part,
besides MikroTik on the Proxmox backup, and it's a very occasional.
Yeah, no, honestly, I like Proxmox. I just don't like that. I guess our backup system that we have don't support it yet.
Yeah.
Feature request.
Been there, done that. Still waiting.
Yeah.
So feature request into Sonar.
But I mean, they have they have Hyper-V and ESXi.
Yeah.
Which works fine.
How is Hyper-V, how's the licensing on that?
It's the same thing as it's a Windows box.
Okay.
So in actuality, Hyper-V has another edition called Data Center Edition, which is really cool for licensing, because if you get a Windows 2022 standard and you run Hyper-V on it, the license is $380 or some crap like that, or you can buy it from a off-brand. As long as you have a license key, you can probably get it for $180. If you get the Data Center Edition, the retail cost is $2,600. But as many licenses as you want will be licensed if it's running under VM under the Data Center Edition. So now you get we actually support a couple companies that do VDI installations, and they'll put 1,000 boxes VDIs on a single server, and we're talking 8 CPUs, 16 terabytes of fucking RAM, just massive boxes. And the reason why they do the massive boxes is because for $1,600 server license, everything underneath that, other than Exchange and SQL, all your desktop OSs and Windows Server OSs are all covered under it.
Nice.
Which is
that's a huge cost.
Big cost savings for a lot of things. So, but otherwise, it works really well. It has all the replication stuff between servers already built in. You don't have to spin up like ESXi. They have a replication VM that you have to spin up. I don't know if they have Ceph on Proxmox.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a little closer. But basically, you just say, hey, this server is a backup server, or this server is also a primary server. Then you say, hey, this virtual machine, I want you to replicate to this machine. And now you have high availability between those two machines. And as long as every virtual machine is replicated to some other virtual machine, or more than one, you'll have high availability backup. Now, we don't really need that because we have our load balancer. And the load balancer is not only for, obviously, load balancing, but it's also for active backup failover. So most of our load balancing is just simply V6 or V4. So V6 traffic we send to server 1, V4 traffic we send to server 2. And then if in the event of server 2 goes down, V4 traffic will be redirected to server 1. And everything, you like ASP, your ASP state database, which is important to keep your sessions. All your session information is stored in the database, so you hopping between virtual machines or web servers don't even make any difference. You don't even notice it.
Wow.
So
fast.
Yeah.
Fast, easy, and reliable.
Good. I haven't used this aspect of VMware in a while, but I do recall they had there was HA mode where it would, when there was a failure, it would then boot that VM.
So
And then they had fault tolerant mode, which is where they ran concurrently,
Yeah.
and you could pull the power out
Yeah.
of the hardware, and it wouldn't miss a beat.
So with both Hyper-V and ESXi, those methods, other than there's another program called vMotion, which is kind of high availability, but it's not. vMotion's another virtual box that basically does replication between ESXi boxes. And if one box goes down, then it just starts it on the other one. Okay, and they can do real-time replication, so even the memory is copied over, and then it just starts it right where it left off. That's assuming that VMware replicate that vMotion it's a separate license component, as well as it's you have to have bandwidth and all that for it.
Sure.
Hyper-V is very similar. You can also do it that way, or what's even simpler is if you have a high availability SAN. So in our case, we've actually moved away from our SANs, except for mission critical data, because we have drives in every server. And every physical server is actually backed up with another physical server with its own VMs. So again, if server 1 goes down, everything's still running on server 2, it's a separate installation, and the load master will simply fail it over to server 2. So, and that can occur in less than 5 seconds. So it just makes it simpler, so I don't have to mess with the replication. Yes, it uses more space, but space is cheap.
Yeah, storage is the cheapest portion on the server.
The cool server currently, other than our primary SQL server, the cool server is I got a little 1U 640, 24 cores, a half a terabyte of RAM, a pair of 100 gig NICs in it, and then I have a pair of 4x4x4x4 blurification 4 terabyte NVMe disks. So it has 8 4 terabyte NVMe's, all connected to 2 PCI Express 16x slots. Dude, that thing will just chuck data. Like, I've seen 55 gigabit out of it, and it's at 2% CPU load. There's no usage on it whatsoever. Super low power, and it's fast, so fast.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very expensive server, even on the used market.
The physical server was maybe $1,200.
Yeah, but
and then
the
NVMe that included the CPUs.
Yeah.
The CPUs are only 12 core each.
Okay.
So 24 threads total. Don't need a whole lot of threads for IOPS. Run true NAS on it, so now it's all ZFS RAID. So now you have, the biggest thing is you have ZFS RAID 6 across 8 NVMe drives, all with full 4x pipelines to the CPUs.
Yeah.
So that's and then you have to split, you have to make sure those cards are in the chassis. There's 4 16x slots, but you have to take one card has to be on the top side, one card has to be on the bottom side, so that they're on separate CPUs.
Yeah.
So goofy shit like that, but dude, that thing is, and we have 2 of those, and they're set up in HA mode with TrueNAS. So,
well, what else is new in the industry? Anyone? Any other crazy weirdness?
Not so much affecting most of our market, but it seems like
Cambium did turn out not very well.
Their quarterly.
Yeah, their quarterly did not come out well.
Well, we kind of knew that.
Yeah, everyone was kind of predicting that ahead of time. I told all my stock trader friends, hey, if you want to short a stock, now this is the one to do right now. So
how bad was it? I don't know what their stock was.
I think they lost. I think it was another 10% or something like that. It was a rough day.
Yeah, when at WISP Palooza or WISP America last time I checked, we were talking to them, and like I said, they just didn't. They had no foresight to saying that there's a $8,000 base station that people wanted. Everybody's been about race to the bottom, versus hey, I want something that really works and works extremely well. I think this is a sign that our industry is maturing.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at like WISP America last time when we were there, the number of women that were there is starting to become a real big thing, which is great. That's great for women. But, the same thing, we have a number of ISPs that they are getting big and large. And, now they're wanting stuff that just works. They don't care about the cost.
Yeah, so, so just as an FYI, they went from $4 down to $3.70-ish. And they're they're down to $3.50 now over 2 days last week.
So Airspan is down to 0.12 cents.
Yeah, Airspan, that whole good job, Jamie. I
You got Alan again with
yeah. So yeah.
Oh, it gained 20% today, going to 0. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I guess it's
they're
errors when you have such small.
they're declaring bankruptcy, and so the stockholders are.
Well, sure, but I mean, plus $0 increase of 20%.
Nothing is still 20% of something. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, so Cambium's doing rough. Ubiquity's got some new switches coming.
The
new Edge switches are out. I think we talked about that last time, though.
Yeah,
on the podcast.
I actually had an interesting conversation with one of the vendors. They go, "Why is people not liking the Microtech like NetPower 16s over the?"
You have to run 2 wires, and it doesn't have power. You can't do full power on most of the ports. Like the S16, you can't do all the ports.
Right.
But the Microtech's limitations are a little bit more stringent.
Right.
And it seems to be a little bit more, I don't want to say flaky, but...
I think the issue is more the 4-wire PoE out.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a significant cost.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the cost of NetPower is very inexpensive compared to the EdgePoint.
Yeah.
Okay. One, the transformer to convert 48 to 24 volt or vice versa is fairly expensive, even at that design level. And Microtech's opinion is there's too many customers that only need 48 or only need 24 to put in that converter.
Yeah, and so the few people who need both just run 2 wires.
Yeah, well, it's either that or we actually have a little it's not a buck converter, it's a down converter that converts the 48 volt to 24 volts.
So then
it literally fits inside the damn thing. So you can hook up the wires to the 48 volt side and just plug it into the 24 volt side.
Yeah. So it seems like a lot of people dislike that you have to run 2 wires, and the amperage, the total amperage.
Yeah, the total amperage is, I don't think, a big deal. I really think it's more the 4-wire PoE, because like all your air fibers, you have to have the 4-wire PoE.
Mm-hmm.
There is some, I'm just trying to think how to say this without getting into NDA territory. There is some action on Microtech side trying to understand if it's a worthwhile investment to put high power ports as well as the buck converter and all that into a product.
I guess here's my question: is how many 4-pair PoE products have come out in the last year?
That a WISP would use?
Yeah,
very few.
Yeah, like
I mean, it's just
doesn't have
air fiber. Air fiber.
Yeah, it's all the old air fiber.
Right.
Like old. I mean, the air fiber 24, the
air fiber 5.
Yeah.
It's all the air fiber.
Because the 5XT, it wasn't 4-pair.
I thought it was.
Or four.
Yeah.
Is it? Was it? Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's really just the air fibers. Mm-hmm. The problem is in the WISP industry, those are very, very prevalent.
Yeah.
So, but we actually have a lot of customers that they just went to all licensed backhauls and not air fiber 11s.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting Aviat up or
a lot of Well,
the 60 gigahertz stuff or the 80 gigahertz stuff, and
Air
they
fiber
have to have their own
doesn't-
power supplies anyway.
Yeah, but the trouble is that an air fiber doesn't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
Like you just can't do
Yeah,
that.
it's not that special.
And even the Air Fiber 24, I mean, there's legitimately no reason to be buying an Air Fiber 24 HD.
No.
Like,
There's no reason. It is less money, and you get more performance and more range on an 80 gigahertz link
Yeah.
than on a 24 HD.
there's multiple Aviat, Ciclu.
The only reason why you would want to buy one is because you have a edge point, and you just want to plug the cable in.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
That would be that, or, somehow you used all your, E-band spectrum.
Okay. So,
Other E-band spectrum.
but yeah, I mean it was just an interesting conversation that we were having because he's like, why is we have a whole bunch of the net power, the net powers, but everybody's saying I want these edge points. I get the other thing with the edge point I think is instead of you running bare wires, you can power it with 2 PoEs.
Oh, you can do that.
I'm pretty sure you can, right?
I've always been a switch at the bottom. I'm basically a tower guy.
Yeah.
I
I'm pretty sure you can run 2 PoEs up to it, and that will power the not the net power, the edge point. And for telecommunication guys, it's easier to run an Ethernet cable than a power cable, especially if you don't have a power cable on you.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't.
guarantee you, an Ethernet cable is more expensive than.
Yeah. Well, you still have to run that up in there anyway, or you have to run fiber up.
Yeah,
So,
you would have to.
and that's honestly that's the big difference is.
They want one cable because it's simple and you have one thing to manage.
Yeah.
But the trouble is that Ethernet's so delicate, and are you going to try and do 2.5 gig Ethernet up a tower? And we had this discussion on the last podcast. Doing 2.5, it's just
you just do 10 and be done with it. Yeah.
Yeah, but 10 gig base T is super power, super hot, and it's very, very touchy. And
Well, you don't run Ethernet; you run fiber. Be done with it.
Like, stop trying to,
Reinvent the wheel.
like just glass. Just stop copper, glass.
yeah, this is why Mike fought for SFP ports.
I sit there and I wonder if like Microsoft or Google's data centers or their office buildings, I wonder if they don't have Ethernet at all.
Well, I'll tell you, the one Google one doesn't have
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Did you see that article?
No, I did not. Well,
Oh, all right. So Google built this brand spanking new, beautiful building, super artistic, and they use a boatload of concrete and steel. And I think they were, was it Aruba? They had a big name manufacturer for the Wi-Fi access points, but they didn't place them at all well because they needed to be aesthetic and such. And the Wi-Fi was terrible, and apparently a lot of Google employees are just all Wi-Fi all the time.
Yeah.
And so they were just like, it's unworkable. We're not going to work here. I can't even get internet connection to load Gmail other than in basic mode.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a couple really funny articles about that because Google is having to have other companies come in to fix their Wi-Fi.
I did a job in New York City, and we won't go into the company. It's a high dollar company, but did it stop?
Nope. I'm pretty good about checking it every 15 minutes.
I'm not.
Yeah. They say up to New York, they paid for 2 days. And let me tell you, they do not put the bus depots in New York City in nice neighborhoods. So I get there, and I kid you not, this is a 5 gigahertz radio. It's about that big. And on the end is a little nub that converts the in connector, the single in connector, to a SMA connector. And then on the SMA connector, they have a LMR 195, the little bitty gas cable. 150 foot of that run out across the building. And then they convert it inside the building back to LMR 400 for a little 4-foot section out to a little 8 dB Omni. And they wonder why they get slow transfer rates.
I don't see that working well.
So I ended up, I'm like, okay, so who has cable? And that they had their technician there. And I'm like, okay. Ran a Cat5 across the building, moved this big ass, I mean, it was a big radio. And moved this big radio, connected it directly to the LMR 400. I go, let's see how fast, because basically this was the data acquisition system for the buses. So the buses would pull into the depot and they'd stay there for about an hour and a half before the next shift leaves, and they would be refueled, all that kind of good stuff. Well, while they were there, they would be uploading all their camera footage, because each bus had like 6 cameras on them. They would be uploading all their camera footage to the central server. Okay. Well, the performance was crap. So in that hour and a half, they couldn't upload a few, couple hundred meg of data instead of it going nice and quick like it's supposed to. So, and that was, I mean, heck, they had, 16 dB of loss and 100 foot of LMR 192, and I'm like, that's more than the gain of your damn antenna. You're not even getting anything. I mean, your signal's stopping right about this 38 foot mark or something like that. So yeah, I relocated the radio and connected it to the LMR 400, and magically it worked really well after that. So, and then I changed my ticket, and because I was supposed to fly out the next day because it was a 2-day job. And I'm like, yep, I'm out. I didn't even stay at the hotel. I was like, yep, out. They did not put bus depots in the nicest place in Europe.
Dude, I took a Greyhound once, and that was a portion of Denver I've never returned to.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was rough. All right, well, so Google can't do Wi-Fi. They're expanding, actually. I think Google just.
I thought they were firing people.
They did fire some people, but I think their internet service provider stuff makes them good money.
Wow.
And it makes people go faster on the internet. They want more people on the internet. What else, Mike, is new that you...
I went to look something up, and then I just see VMware giving away Workstation Pro, Fusion Pro free for personal use. So after months and months of catching crap for destroying the channel and destroying everything they have, they're like, oh, hey.
You can use it free for personal use. Yeah.
Free for well, I think that's a dollar. What is it? Minutes? What's it late and a dollar short?
Yeah, minute late and a dollar short. Yeah. Honestly, they're we have VMware licensing, and honestly, there's no point in us even renewing because they've done away with all the models for purchase. It's all leasing. It's all a monthly subscription model.
Oh.
So, the perpetual licenses, when we purchased, we have a perpetual license, and now anything new in VMware 8, etc., it's all, pay by usage model.
I get the pay by usage because it's a consistent amount of money that you're going to get every month, and so you know that you're going to be able to pay your developers.
Yeah, but if you offer perpetual, you should leave perpetual alone. But they did away with it completely.
Yeah, I do
not.
It seems to be that's where the direction all the software companies are going.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Microsoft. You have the Microsoft. What is it? The email. Yeah, Office 365. It's all subscription based. I'm not going to sit there and say that that's not good if they're constantly making improvements on it. But the problem is they're probably going to sit there the next 6 years. They ain't going to make any significant improvements, and then they might come out with a new version of Office 366. And now you have to pay a new subscription for that, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They'll just have little add-ons. Actually, that's what's by us is there's new services that do things that then you have to pay for.
Yeah, and historically the cloud is stupidly high cost.
Stupidly high cost, unreliable.
Well,
the larger, so that's actually a question that we get asked a lot. Should I use my registrar's DNS or should I run my own DNS servers? And in all reality, your website, your registrar's DNS servers is fine because that's authoritative. The proper question is, should I run my own recursion servers? And the answer is yes.
Recursive inside of your network, yes.
Right. Anything over 200-300 customers, even 500 customers, you should be running your own DNS servers.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's not expensive. It's not, and if you need, LoadMaster, you can get a LoadMaster 100, which is a 100 meg license, and it's like $200 a year. Okay. Well, now you can do your load balancing on your DNS servers, and if one fails, it's all good because most DNS services. Let me rephrase this: Windows, Linux, Apple, all the major applications.
Windows will fail over. Windows actually does fail over now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have a DNS server that's been flaking out on me, and it was the primary for some of my Windows devices. And
but see, there's no such thing as a primary and secondary in Windows. It's just a DNS server, and it should round robin them concurrently.
It should, but it doesn't.
So originally Windows, they wouldn't do any DNS checking. They wouldn't, if they couldn't get an answer, it would just be offline, and half your internet or half your web page wouldn't load. Because that's what it would do is it would just sit there. It would simply use both DNS servers simultaneously, and if they didn't load, they didn't load. So now even if you get a LoadMaster license and you run a pair of LoadMasters, and then you get a pair of Pi-holes, darn luck. Now you at least have redundancy on all those things.
Yeah, and you can turn on Pi-hole features for customers who want to pay an extra $5 a month for less internet.
Yeah, we actually have a number of customers that they have 6 DNS servers, recursion. 2 that are unrestricted, 2 that have adware and trackingware blocks, and then 2 that block everything beside, including adult content, all that kind of good stuff. Now, is it perfect? The answer is no. But for free, the ISP is offering it to their customers. You can use these two, or these 2. Whichever ones you want to use, it's up to you, but these are what they do, and you can use them. So, and the cost of running a Pi-hole in Docker or even a freaking Ubuntu server is nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't use any CPU whatsoever. A little bit of RAM, but...
Yeah. I think the DNS servers, the last one I set up was 512 meg of RAM, and I think 16 gigs of hard drive.
Now, on the flip side of this, I will tell you that if you have a company that does Active Directory, always point to the Active Directory servers.
Yes.
First. Then you go into the Active Directory servers, and then you set up forwards.
Yeah.
To the Pi-holes. That's perfectly legitimate, but you cannot do it the reverse method, because your workstations need to update the DNS.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, the number of companies that I have run into, and you come in and they're like, "This is not working. All this stuff's not working." Oh, you have Active Directory. Cool. What's the IP of that server? Okay. Hey, it's working now. What did you do? Just checked.
Yeah, everything with Active Directory. Everything with Active Directory is in DNS.
Yeah.
And if you do not use those DNS servers, now you can load balance them. So if you have like a pair, if the company's small and they only have a pair of DNS servers, you can put a pair of load balancers in front of them, and you can load balance between them. And if one fails and it fails the other one, that's perfectly acceptable. That works just fine. But you cannot point them to Pi-hole servers, which then point to your Active Directory servers. That doesn't work because it doesn't get any updates.
Right.
So, one of those goofy things.
Yeah. What are you looking at, Mike?
So something I thought you guys about anything else that's happened or whatever. Google now is up to, we were talking about a bit on the way down. They're up to 16 trans-Pacific cables. Now, it's not 16 from the U.S. to Japan, but there's 16 cables they have that connect various places
across the Pacific.
Across the Pacific.
So you sit there and think about that. It's cheaper for them to put their own cable in than to lease a light, a color off an existing
a bunch
provider.
of colors.
Yeah.
well, and not just cheaper. Not enough capacity exists.
Yeah.
Google, with all these cables, Google has deployed more capacity than exists outside of Google in the Pacific Ocean.
Well, see, I know who bought is Global Crossing still out there, or did someone buy? Someone bought them.
Long gone. That was
Yeah.
gone 15
See,
years ago.
when we were talking, we actually did a lot of work with Global Crossing, and everything they did, every light level or every color was filled onto that, because every time they had to light another strand, that cost a power budget. So they would literally, if they had 10 gig waves, they would have freaking 12 10 gig waves on a single strand, sending it across, because that was the cheapest power option. And now I think they can fit 4 or 800 gig waves in a single strand.
Well, so actually, I'll tell them this as well on the way down. So in the submarine cable systems, they've actually gone to less number of channels across more strands of fiber, because on the more channels per pair, then they had to keep increasing the QAM rates, and as you know in wireless, if you increase those, you can't go as far. So then they need more amplifiers, and they figured out some other technology that made it cheaper.
Yeah, to light a strand.
Well, and so they went from like 6-strand cables to like 18-strand cables. So it was cheaper to go from 30 terabits per pair to 20 terabits per pair and put 3 times the number of pairs.
Gotcha.
So now they have way more capacity.
Because see, like I said, whenever I was doing the Global Crossing work, it was they wanted every time they lit another strand, that came out of their power budget. That was the most important thing, was that power budget.
Now
it doesn't matter.
Well, and then that's part of that's part of why Google has so many cables, because then they started, but as they break it up, they don't have many that just go all the way across. They stop everywhere along the way.
Yeah. Every like 80 to 100 kilometers.
Well, no, but
is
like
a regen point.
Well, but like to the islands though.
Oh, okay.
They stop at islands because then they can tap shore power.
Right.
So now they can push that spectrum utilization up more. They can increase that efficiency because power is the problem.
Right.
Instead of trying to launch 4,000 miles from power from the U.S. to Australia.
Yeah, they stop at all the islands and
Hawaii and Fiji and Polynesia and here and here and here.
Yeah, but you'd think power on the Hawaii, and you'd think power on those islands would be at a premium.
It can't be more expensive than trying to push thousands of or hundreds of watts, thousands and thousands of miles.
Well, it's all DC.
Yeah.
So,
But
DC does not go very far very well.
French Polynesia has 5 cables to it. 5 Google cables.
Okay.
In French Polynesia.
Yeah, I would just think, I understand the distance limitations on that, but you would still think some of those islands' power would be at a premium.
Sure.
Sure. Because they might have a fucking 20 kW a 20 megawatt generator that's running on diesel there.
Yeah.
But how much power could one of those cables? Is it?
Don't know.
20,000 watts.
Don't know.
I can build you a solar array that'll do that.
On one of the cables that I saw documented, I think it was one of the Nanogs. I think it was transatlantic. I could be misremembering numbers. They
power from both sides too.
Yep, it's right from both sides, and they would inject. Let's just say it's 18. Inject positive 18,000 volts on one side, and then they would inject negative 18,000 volts on the same cable the other side. So then they had a differential potential of 36,000 volts, which doesn't sound like a lot because you look at on the way you point out that cable is 765 kilovolt.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's all these extreme tolerances. But I think that's why they did so many islands, because then they don't have to push the limits those power budgets so far.
Well, no, yeah. Also, they don't have to light strands. You have a strand going to the island. Well, guess what? That's all you need. You just need that strand going to the island. You don't have to light that strand any further.
They've spent literally billions of dollars on their Pacific cables.
Yeah.
They'll buy the power.
Yeah.
Well, and then some of this, one's going from French.
French
all their
Poly-
developers are down there in the Polynesian area.
It's a for the cable that go. So there's one that goes from French Polynesia over to Chile, and the Chilean government put money up so that they had
Yeah.
diversity from the United States,
Right.
so that they had another path out to the rest of the world. A lot of them. There's a lot. I think there's 6 that land in Guam. Well, what's in Guam? An enormous U.S. military presence. There's a lot of this is diversifying.
There is a WISP in Guam.
That Hong Kong used to be one of the main hubs, but with China, people are pulling out of Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and then also China being aggressive in the South China Sea area, they're all pulling back.
Right.
So then there's all this. So Guam already was popular, but it's becoming more popular, and so on. All the further out, so that way China is less likely to damage the cable. That there's diversity from this and that. That we don't touch Chinese anything anywhere.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah. So that's cool. Shoot me a link to that if you can. And then that Loadmaster. Shoot me a link to that. And I'll put that-
KimTechnologies.com.
Kim Technologies.
Okay. We do use them. We have the VLSIM 3000 for 3000 megabit. We don't come anywhere close to that, but that was a deal that they gave us. It was a 3-year licensing thing. But so far it definitely works really good. And once you start using it, all of a sudden you find other usages for it. To keep your mail servers alive, you can spin up. It's just, for me anyway, it's simpler to spin up another VM on another server than it is for me to mess with the high availability stuff, depending on what it is. Like our web servers, we have a pair of web servers. They all have shared common files, but if a web server goes down, it's not the end of the world because we have our Loadmaster there to take care of that. And matter of fact, you can actually have it, if none of the options are available, you can actually have it serve out a sorry message, which is kind of cool. And something else the Kemp boxes do is they do all your SSL offloading.
Oh.
Which is really cool. And
as I recall, I haven't really seen much CPU on SSL stuff.
so if you're doing best practices, you are typically doing higher encryption levels, and you can get a significant CPU load in comparison to normal web traffic. I should rephrase that.
Okay.
But the difference is it really depends on the number of connections.
Yeah. I haven't touched anything.
Most servers you won't notice anything, but as you go up in the number of connections into 30, 40, 50,000, 60,000 connections, all of a sudden the server load will go up drastically because of the SSL. And SSL offloading also allows you, the biggest benefit is when you exchange your SSLs, like your SSL renews, you just exchange it one place. You don't have to go to every server and change it.
That's a good point. That is actually super handy.
So, and it does Star TLS for your TLS options as well. So, but like I said, what's really kind of cool, something else is intrusion detection. We actually do a lot of intrusion detection for both our services as well as both the services that we offer. And, that's one of the first things is, your TLS 1.0, 1.2 should be depreciated. SSL v3 should be depreciated. The other thing that is really beneficial in this on the web server side of things, I'm trying to remember, it's HTTPS over UDP. So it's called the Slack protocol.
Quick.
Quick protocol. Yeah, quick.
Yeah, so
quick protocol.
that supports that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's slick.
So, and that's really that can drastically improve page load times if that's something you're interested in making sure your web application is really fast. Again, something that we went through all for tower coverage is we're quick enabled on V6 and V4. So most modern browsers like Chrome will connect via Quick.
Okay.
So.
Did you notice any significant page load?
If you go into the developer console and actually look at it, the answer is yes.
Okay.
I mean,
you might not be visually.
So, I mean, think of it this way. If you, let's say you're 20 milliseconds away from a server, okay, standard SSL, you send a SYN, then a SYN ACK has to come back, load this SSL, I need to get this page, here's the SSL for the page, connect to the SSL page, now it's connected, I need this page, now deliver the page. So you basically have 4 back and forths.
Yeah, it's just a ton of these. Yeah.
Just, 4 or so 8 packets just to open the web page.
Just to get the connection started, not even the page being loaded.
Gotcha. So we're quick. Hey, I need this page. Here's my, I'm going to use UDP. Here's my SSL information. Okay, here's the page. Here's the SSL information. It's all done in this first the same round trip, and it's all done UDP. So it can.
So will it do any handshaking for verification that you got the page?
Nope.
No.
But I mean, even though UDP is quote unreliable in general on the internet, I mean, all your VoIP calls are pretty reliable. So
yeah,
unless you have a congestion on the link, you're not really going to notice it too terribly much. And then on top of that, you got most routers out there are going to recognize TOS bits, so you can always play with that with your VoIP services. So, but Quick is really really cool.
Yeah. Well, and I know a lot of people were kind of like, oh no, now we're losing the information that we used to get out of TCP, and it's all going into this black hole of Quick. It's like.
But you should be able to read it. Yeah, you should be able to read it. So
yeah, and we know where it's talking to. We know what it's saying.
The only difference is you're not doing it in 8 packets. You're doing it in 2.
Yeah.
So, and that and especially if you're trying to load a website like what's the British government their GIS page, which is to begin with is slow on top of everything else. It's also 150 milliseconds away. You figure 150 milliseconds away, you do that 4 times, that's a second. By the time it's all said and done, you're at a second of just waiting for the round trip times to get done. So
yeah, I think we've got a good episode.
We can probably chop it up into a couple.
Yeah.
Hey, we got content for next week.
Yeah. So.
They're not serving beer yet.
No, they're not serving beer, but we can go chat with other people.
Yeah.
See you guys in Kentucky. I hope we'll see if my boss will let me be free a little bit. If he's gonna be a jerk, just blame him. I'll tell you. I'll post it on Facebook and see.
This is like my boss is a jerk. That's all the post says.
Yeah. My boss is a jerk. Won't let me go to Kentucky, man. So all right.
It's probably in a dry county anyway.
I doubt it. They have dry counties back in Kentucky still.
Yeah, the distiller was Jack Daniel's distilleries in a dry county.
That's hilarious, really.
Yeah.
Wow. So you can't drink Jack Daniel's where Jack Daniel's is made.
I'm pretty sure there's a exception that somebody did for samples or something like that, but yeah, it's still a dry county. It's either that, maybe it's Maker's Mark. I don't remember which one it was. It was either Maker's Mark or Jack Daniel's.
I want to say that you can go to Jack Daniel's and get a shot.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that story. So maybe it's Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. All right. Killing it, boys.
You're now listening to Greg, it's the Brothers Wisp. Let's take a ride through space on this mothership. Wireless networking, we talk about equipment and methodology, so sit back and start learning. Lighten up the tower so people can start searching. Shooting up the web in neighborhoods, net surfing. We got horrible jokes, we're loud and annoying, but we're informative facts, we're not disappointing. Just give us a listen, cause fun is the mission. I'm telling you, you don't know what you are missing. Ideas and some good comedy given. If you missed the show already, don't worry, you're forgiven.